Alright, so for your essay now, you can just look at the notes, but I'm just giving you some tips how you make your essay sound good. You must make sure everything links together in a very tight way. So let's say they ask you about why economic opportunities is important. Highlight the outcome they want you to achieve. Is whatever that you say must link back to importance for the country. For the country, right? Right. So in terms of Cuba, you have a few things, right? What do they have inside Cuba? They have the sugar industries, right? They have the sugar industries. They have the tobacco, right? They have the tobacco industries. In fact, 60% American owned, right? So when you explain this fact, right, the sugar industries, the tobacco, the 60% American owned industries, and also the other things, right, like the railroads and all the other things which are inside the notes. The next part you have to write clearly is how do you explain this? How do you explain how why all these things are very important? Right? So 2 to 3 lines or more to explain the importance of this. So very simple. Just tell me what do all these things give to America? Right? So because of all these things, I can achieve revenue, right? Revenue for the country will go up, right? And when revenue go up, what will happen to your country? Your country will be more prosperous, right? Prosperity goes up. And what happens when your country is more prosperous? It will become more strong, right? Is able to resist attacks, and then citizens are happy, right? Citizens are happy, right? Because there's prosperity among the nation because of this revenue that comes from exploiting Cuba itself. Hence, Cuba is very crucial because it is a way to buy cheap sugar from Cuba itself that you can use in the United States to help your citizens to grow the country, to make it prosperous because of the increase in revenue. So this is how you explain importance, right? Highlight the keyword again, explain it well, how your facts link to why it is important. So for the other reason is the proximity, right? So you must talk about Monroe Doctrine, and the need for America to get control of get influence inside North and South Americas, all the Americas land. Okay, so why is this important? Why is this important? Because number one, why is Cuba important? So what? So what if the Americans want to do this? So that makes Cuba very important, right? Because Cuba is the gateway, right? Because Cuba is the gateway to the Caribbean islands, right? People can go from Cuba and enter from there into South America, right? So if I draw my little map here, my very ugly map, Cuba is here, right? South America is here. So if you control Cuba, right, you actually have this part, you have the sea as well, right? You can control the sea lanes, everything. So any ship that wants to come into South America will be bombed. Okay, so that is why it is important. It's crucial to maintain the status quo inside the Americas, in that the America has the biggest influence there. So that's how you explain importance. Now for the next one, right? Let's say CMC, right? The crisis of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, tensions. Let's say you're talking about tensions in the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now we reverse engineering again. What am I trying to say when I talk about tensions? So whatever points you write must lead to these tensions, right? So again, let's repeat the points, right? You have things like the blockade. You have things like Kennedy's actions, right? Kennedy's actions. You have things like Khrushchev's decision. decision to put the missiles. And you have things like the worsening relationship, right? Worsening relations, right? So it's good that you can write all these things, right? You can write the worsening relations, you can write the decision to put the missiles inside, right? You can write about the Jupiter missiles, right? You can write about MAD, man mutually assured destruction. You can write about the naval blockade, right? It's good and dandy. Yes, you can write about all these things. I remember all these facts. The naval blockade, right? The land reform law, the policy of land reform law, right? The Bay of Pigs. I remember all these facts, very clear to me. But how do you get to the higher mark is you must explain, right? You must link all these things to how it escalated tensions. So very simple. How did it escalated tensions? Link it back to counter actions, right? What is the resultant action? All these things that they did in your examples, right? How does it lead to tensions? What is the resultant actions from the other side? Right? Example, you talk about Kennedy's actions, right? What did Kennedy do? He did a naval blockade. He started the strategy of brinksmanship, right? Brinksmanship. So how did this eventually lead to tensions? Because it's between two sides, so you must talk because of this. Khrushchev decided that this is an illegal act of war. He defined it first. He defined the blockade as an illegal act of war, right? So because of this, he told the ships to go forward and plant their missiles quicker. And Castro was the one, because he realized that the world was on the brink of war. He mobilized his troops. He mobilized his whole country to prepare for war. And when you have a country near you who are mobilizing for war, you know that tensions have erupted, right? And the missiles have been inside already. So that is how you explain, right? Explain the resultant action. Explain what happened that led to tensions, right? Tensions in the Cuban Missile Crisis. Or let's say you talk about worsening relationship here. How does this lead to tensions, right? So because of all the things that Castro did and all the things that the US did in retaliation, what did it result in? Right? What is the resultant action? Resultant action is that Castro asked for Khrushchev's help to put the missiles inside. And how was this viewed? Right? So the view is very important. This was viewed by US as extremely aggressive. So because of this, they did countermeasures, which is the naval blockade and blah 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 blah. Because of the naval blockade, and hence you have Khrushchev interpreting it as an illegal act of war. So illegal act of war, and hence you have Castro mobilizing his troops, and tensions that anybody at any point in time can press the button at this point in time, right? So tensions escalated as such. So this is how you explain. You must make it very clear your distinction between when you are giving your facts, right, and when you're using your facts to explain how these facts leads to the tensions. And these tensions cannot be brief. I need at least 2-3 lines or 4 lines if possible. Tell me all the resultant actions. Tell me the resultant actions because of the points here. Tell me the views they had, right? The views, the suspicion, the aggression, all the things they did. And because of all these things that they did, each side started to view each other as, hey, do you want to start a war, is it? So hence tensions erupted. All right, so please, okay, explain it well. So yes, all these things, for example, if they ask the question, right, worsening tensions, what led to the worsening of tensions between the US and Cuba? So the US and Cuba. So in your explanation, you must write things like, because of the land reform law, right? It strained their relationship, right? Because of Castro's friendship with Khrushchev, right? It made the US view that Castro is communist, and communist is a common enemy, and so because of this, the US was on high guard against Castro, right? And because of this, they couldn't see eye to eye anymore, right? Or Castro taking away the US properties, Because of this, the US felt that, hey, why are you doing this, right? So the US retaliated with a trade embargo. And this made things even worse because Castro started getting help from the Soviet Union. And once you have a big brother behind you, no one's going to bully you, right? And also tensions will increase because now you have two big powers. Now it's not just a fight between two countries, it's a fight between two countries and their alliances, which can turn the whole incident into a big war. So this is what you must explain. Alright, so look at the notes again and try and figure out how you can use the details to explain your main point. Okay,